Hey guys, hope you all have been well. Welcome back to my channel. Before I begin, I would like to apologize for the noise in the background. I have my air conditioner on. It is very hot, and you guys know I can't get through a video without the air conditioner. But on today's video, I did notice that I haven't done a face swatch party. You guys know I pretty much swatched the entirety of my blush collection, but I never got around to doing my Pat McGrath blush swatches. I only have 4 here, but I believe they're going to be shades that are going to be complementary to tan skin and upwards, so deeper complexions. And as I swatch them, I'll talk about which shade range I think it'll suit best. For reference, I am an NC 35 on the lighter days, and then about an NC 37 for just my usual skin complexion. So if you're interested in what these blushes look like on my complexion, I hope you decide to stay tuned. We're gonna get straight into some face swatching. I am making it my personal goal to try and get this up before the sale ends on the Pat McGrath website, so cross your fingers, that's what I'm gonna do. So this is what the packaging looks like. It is a plastic container, and it doesn't have the weightiness of the bigger eyeshadow palettes, but it also doesn't have the price tag of it as well. I will be linking all of these blushes down below if you'd like to check them out. I've already explained this a couple times on my channel, but if you're having difficulty opening up this packaging, try not to press from the bottom of the button here. Press it from the top and then it just opens right up. I've seen quite a few people struggle like I did in the beginning, so there's a tip for you guys. The first shade we have here is in Nymphette. I would describe the color of this blush as a rosy pink shade. It definitely has a bit of that purple hue to it, and I think blushes like this look very good as an everyday option. So I'm going to take it from the pan, and this does have a bit of kickback, as you can see from the outer portions of the packaging here, but nothing out of control. I've definitely seen other blushes with far more kick up, and you're able to get a lot of pigment on here. I usually go overboard with this videos with the lighting. I want to make sure that I give you a little bit more of a deeper, sorry about the noise. I want to be able to give you a deeper swatch so that it comes off a little bit more on camera. You can definitely shear it out. So there you have the first pass of a very blown out blush application. It does have a bit of sheen to it. You can see it on the skin, but I don't find that it draws too much attention to the texture of my skin. So second pass, building on. And you can see that it builds on beautifully, and it doesn't leave a patchiness. It's easily blendable and diffuses beautifully onto the skin. And with the shift of my face, I think you're able to see that kind of purple grays right on top of it. And this is what the blush looks like head on. It's such a beautiful shade. I find myself always going to this when I want something very simple on my eyes. Maybe I just want to do liner and some mascara. Just a great overall everyday shade. And as far as complexions, I think this would suit best if you are about like the NC 25 to about an NC 40. This will be a really great shade. Obviously, the lighter you are, the more light-handed you want to go. But as far as just kind of going ham and not really having to think too much about whether or not the color is going to suit your complexion, I think that's a pretty safe range. I think once you get to about an NC 42, you want to go in and maybe swatch it at Sephora, because the last thing that you want is for a blush to end up looking ashy on your skin. I think a 44 could pull it off, but I think anything deeper than that, you might want to give it a swatch first. Now, I intentionally wanted to do this blush next, and this one here is in Nude Venus. I'm going to put Nymphette right next to it. So here I have Nymphette, here is Nude Venus. They are different in shade, but I don't think they're enough to warrant picking up both if you're on a budget. Obviously, if you want to, go right ahead. But the reality is that they're pretty close, that you don't really need both of them. The difference that I see between them is that Nymphette has that rosy kind of purple hue to it, whereas this one pulls a little bit more peachy, almost neutral. And if you're wondering, this is slightly, I would say maybe a shade, possibly half a shade deeper than Nymphette. Loading it on for the first pass through. so easy to apply. So on the first pass, I definitely got a good amount of pigment, as you can see, but I do like a heavier blush, so this amount of blush is something that I would personally wear. But let's just build it up a little bit more with a second pass, and with it side by side, you can see how similar they are. You kind of have to look a little bit more closely to see those undertone differences in the blush. And just like Nymphette, this is going to give you that glowy sheen onto the skin, but another beautiful shade. So now that I have you head on, I think you're going to realize like it's not much of a difference. You can really see the pink. There's so much pink going throughout these blushes, but if you look closely, I see so much more peach on this side, almost like a golden peach, whereas this side it's almost got this like lavender-ish type of gloss right on top. And so this pulls a little bit more cool tone, whereas this side I feel is a little bit more warm dominant. Now as far as which complexions this would suit, I think it's about the same range, about an NC 25 upwards to an NC 42, but it might be easier to push it even further upwards of an NC 44, maybe 46. And the reason I say this is because this is cool tone, so this will look ashy more quickly on deeper complexions, whereas with warmer blushes you can push the envelope a little bit more. But again, I would advise that with this blush, about an NC 44, 46, if you're interested, I still would recommend that you give it a swatch in store if possible. So final look at these two blushes. Here we have Nymphette, and here we have Nude Venus. Let's move on to the last two. The third shade happens to be my favorite out of all the four that I own. I do love every single one of them, but this one just, it pulls me in. Every single time I use it, I'm just in love. And this is the shade Desert Orchid. I'm a little perplexed by the name of this blush, because normally when cosmetics companies come out with a blush with desert or orchid, I think it's going to be like a purple type of mauve kind of thing, and this is totally not that. It is a true peach neutral, sort of like a peach brown, and it is so absolutely delicious. There's no other way to describe it, but just absolutely delicious. I love this blush. So here we are with the first pass. I just love shades like this, especially with tan complexions. I feel like it's the complexion that pulls off shades like this the best. Personal opinion, don't come for me. So here's the first pass. Definitely a lot of pigment already. Okay, second pass. And bam, we have pigment. It has that terracotta feel to it, and the glowiness on the skin pulls golden. Now, I don't normally go this heavy with my blush when I use this shade. Going into the blush like this is more than enough for one cheek, but again, I'm just building it on so you can see the true color on the complexion. Now, as far as complexion, I would go deeper into the shades where it's, I guess, a little bit safer to play around with, and I would say about an NC 30 is kind of where you want to start so that it doesn't look too overboard. If you do plan on buying this and you are of a lighter complexion, just know that you might want to apply the blush and then maybe just dust off a little bit of the excess and then buff it into the skin. I think the color itself is going to look beautiful on all complexions and all undertones just because of that warm neutral combination of the color. But when I speak of complexions, I'm just talking about the intensity of pigment on the skin. So about an NC 30, and then I would push it upwards to like an NC 46, 48. I think this will be a great everyday blush. So if you have deeper complexions and you were thinking of getting Nude Venus, maybe consider getting Desert Orchid instead. The colors are definitely different because this leans a bit more pink, but with deeper complexions, you want to be careful with the pinks because they tend to look more ashy, especially if you add it with cooler tones. So having this warm neutral option might be the way to go if you're wanting to dabble into Pat McGrath for an everyday blush. I think this will be a much better fit if you're upwards of NC 42, 44, and so on. I'm gonna get my brush ready because this next shade, which is Paradise Venus, yes it is the deepest of them all, and it's gorgeous. This is such a beautiful fall winter blush if you have like medium to medium deep complexions. But even with deeper complexions, and I've seen people use this blush, it looks gorgeous on the skin. It is absolutely stunning. It looks a little intimidating in the pan, but I'm going to show you how I use it. So for my complexion, I tend to get my brush in pretty good, but then I'll tap off the excess like I mentioned earlier, and then I'll just do a lighter flush of the color if I wanted to use it as more of an everyday shade. So you can see that with the little amount of blush that I put onto my brush, tapping off the excess, I got the same amount of color as the first pass with Nymphette, which is that first blush that I use, and I went to town with it in the pan. So the intensity and depth of the colors, it definitely changes, at least within the range that I have. So there's the first pass, and a very light one at that. I'm going to take a little bit more. I'm going to tap off just a little bit, and this is what I would do if I wanted more pigment, and I'm not buffing it in. I kind of want to tap it in place first so I know how much depth I have on my face, and if I feel like I have too much already on my skin, I'll just wipe off the excess and then I'll buff. If you have deeper complexions, then obviously you won't have to think of doing these steps, but I love this blush. I think the color is gorgeous. It's this reddened burgundy, no, not burgundy, I would say more mahogany, and it's beautiful. I love the shade, but it can be intimidating on my complexion. So these are the steps that I take to make it suit my complexion a bit more. But can you imagine this deeper complexions? Oh, it looks absolutely flawless on deeper complexions. I can't even, there are no words. There are no words. So here are the blushes head on, and I know this side looks darker because I mean I went in on this side, but you can see the color difference. There's so much more warmth and that terracotta feel on this side, whereas this is just, it's that, you know, pinched look, rosy cheeks. It's winter, it's fall. Bring out the pumpkins and the eggnog. So final look, here we have Desert Orchid, and on this side we have Paradise Venus. I forgot to specifically address Paradise Venus in terms of complexion, but with my explanation, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I would say if you are my complexion, this is kind of where you might want to start thinking of this blush, just because it does require a little bit more thought and preparation before application. So maybe about an NC 37. Obviously wear whatever you want, but I would start, generally I would start about an NC 37 using this blush, and then I would take it to the deep skin beauties out there. This is, oh, every time I see this blush on people with deeper complexion, I'm just like, wow, that looks so good on you. Alright guys, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed a little bit more of a thorough face swatch, cheek swatch video with these blushes. They are not cheap, and so I try my best to be as informative with these swatch videos because I want you to make sure that you're satisfied. I mean, to the best of my ability. I hope that you're satisfied with the purchases that you make if you base it on the information that I give. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys like this makeup look, be sure to check me out on Instagram. It'll be the first link in the description box down below. That is where I post all of my makeup looks along with all the products in the caption. Till the next video, I hope you all are doing well, taking great care of yourselves. I will see you all next time. Bye guys.